thrive in uncharted waters.
Good morning, mushrooms, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, brothers, sisters, mothers, misters, and all my cousins. This is Breaking Down the News, the show in which we pick apart the headlines so that way you can expand your vocabulary, better express yourself, and therefore impress others. It's time to plug in. As usual, unfortunately for the world, it was a pretty sad weekend for the news. The US is burning. There are massive protests. We touched on this last week as things were kicking off. Protesters across the US are defying curfews. To defy something. We've had it on the show many times, but yes, to go against or refuse to obey a person in authority or a rule or a law, something along those lines. And in this case, the people of authorities are setting curfews. What is a curfew, you might wonder? A curfew is a designated period of time after which, or during which, you're not allowed to be out on the street in public. Much like parents will set curfews for their teenage children, saying, "You better be home by midnight or I'll rip your lips off. I'll skin you alive, boy." As you well know, during this time of quarantine and lockdown, many governments have set curfews or put in place curfews, saying that people should not be out and about and on the streets. You know, often it's from sunset to sunrise, from dawn till dusk, dusk till dawn, and so on. So protesters are defying curfews. They are staying out past their bedtimes. And what are they doing? Burning things. There is a standoff. There was a standoff between protesters and officers in Washington, D.C. And a standoff, I guess, as usual, we've had it before. But a standoff is when one party is standing there facing the other party, and the other party is right there, and they are nose to nose, eye to eye. Neither of them will move. Neither of them will get out of the other's way because they're confronting each other, and as a result, nobody's moving. And so it's just, you're at this very tense situation where you're standing there staring each other in the eyes, or throwing concrete and shooting rubber bullets. And so, at first glance this morning, when I was still cleaning the sleep out of my eyes, I was a little confused by this because it said concrete and rubber bullets. And so I thought the bullets were made of concrete. However, that's not the case. The protesters were throwing the concrete and the police were shooting the rubber bullets. And I apologize that I'm laughing. But, yeah, well, let's pause for a little more caffeine. All right. And so, either way, serious divide among Trump advisors over the protests. In this case, you probably know the word divide as a verb, as an operation of mathematics. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. To divide. However, this is a divide. They were together like this, one happy family. Who? The Trump advisors. They are one happy family. However, due to the protests, it has driven a wedge between them, and it's pushing them apart, and now a divide has grown. And the divide is probably deepening over the protests and how he should react to them. However, he's done absolutely nothing. He's hidden in a bunker below the White House and tweeted out incendiary comments. Incendiary, meaning creates fire. Fire, anger. He's trying to make things worse. And has not addressed the nation, and as usual. Trump has fled from his duty. Just pointing out the verb here. To flee, fled. Usually we flee from some sort of natural disaster as a part of an evacuation, maybe. Or criminals try to flee the country to another country that doesn't have extradition treaties, where they won't bring them back. And he's fled from his duty, and it's not concrete. He's not fleeing an area because of a tornado or a tsunami or a hurricane. He's fled from the responsibility of his job. Flee, fled. New video shows moments before Floyd was pinned to the ground. He was pinned to the ground under the knee of a police officer. The officer was kneeling on his neck. To pin somebody to the ground, that's what they do in wrestling. The goal is to get the person's back on the ground, both shoulders pinned to it, both shoulders touching. And interesting, it comes from actual pins. Here we have if you can see that, a thumbtack. Or here we have some actual sewing pins. Yeah, that's right. I sew. So what? Sorry, teacher jokes. Yes, and so a pin is what we use to hold things in place when you're sewing, or hold it in place or hold things together on the wall, to pin your hopes to something. So don't pin your hopes to blah blah blah. It means don't attach your hopes to that, because it probably won't happen. Moving on. I like this verb. I like this word because we capture images, we capture video. On camera, spur anger. To spur something, to cause it to get into motion and move forward. Spurs quite literally are those little metal stars that you see on the back of cowboy boots. Yeah, and that they kind of kick the horse with them or stick it in the sides of the horse, and it scares them and makes them move forward faster. And so we use this as a verb, meaning to cause action, to cause something to happen. Often used in the passive. I was spurred to action. I was spurred to go. Or then you might also know the phrase, the spur of the moment. I had not even thought about it until this morning when I saw this verb, and I realized I'm going to have to explain this. And it's like whatever's happening in the moment stuck those metal stars, those spurs into your side and caused you to do something. And if you do something in the spur of the moment, it means to do it impulsively, without thinking. You didn't do it on purpose. It's just the situation made you do it, basically. And oh, whew, the spur of the moment, off the top of your head. As I said, Trump was briefly taken to an underground bunker. Most people probably know this word, but it's a fortified area, typically underground, in which you are safe from things. In this case, protesters. It's not like they were going to storm the White House and invade. It's one of the most heavily guarded buildings in the world. But yeah, he was down in his nuclear bunker underground. Many cities around Europe have air raid bunkers underneath them because of aerial bombing during World War II. Okie dokie, moving on. Exciting news! For the first time, SpaceX, they've been launching rockets left and right, pew, 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 launching satellites and things. But this is the first time they had a manned rocket, and it docked with the International Space Station. And that's pretty cool, to dock with something. Think about it. Sitting on the dock of the bay. There's the coast, here's the water, the bay, and the wooden or metal thing that goes out, which boats then tie to. The connection point, the attachment point, which allows people to get in and get out, etc. For all of you corporate people out there, this is a docking station where you can connect your notebook to then a monitor and or whatever. And yes, I completely agree, sad Nad Wed. I do have a begrudging respect for Elon Musk. He has proven himself to be a visionary and so on, but he's also proven himself to be, as you said, in your words, a massive douche. You know, he's one of those people. You love him or you hate him, or you just kind of sit on the fence and able to appreciate both sides. Hooray. It is a big step forward, though. It postpones the G7. To postpone something means to delay it from happening, to push it back away from you in time so that you have more time before it. It's like to just put it off for later. Set it aside. We'll get around to it whenever we feel like it. This is just a collocation, make and do, to make a fortune, to get rich, to make a fortune from war. Well, as you know, war is one of the best businesses out there. On to football news, because you know I'm passionate about football. Sparsely populated stadiums. If you look in that picture, you can almost not even see the fans. But we're only here for the language. Sparsely populated. Those are two words that collocate. They naturally go together. Sparsely populated, the opposite of that would be densely populated. If something is sparse, there's not much of it, and it's spread around a large area. Normally, towards the top of mountains, there's very sparse vegetation. Similarly, in deserts, there's very sparse vegetation. The great states of North Dakota and South Dakota are sparsely populated. Let's see, the other day I was looking up this word and there was very sparse information on the internet about the etymology of blah blah blah. It's not true, I just made up that story for you. I hope you enjoyed it. I've been working on it all morning. Live, again, live again. Yay. Prefix. Now, this has been on the front page of CNN for some time. It's not really news if you ask me. However, I finally succumbed to temptation I could no longer resist, and so I clicked the story briefly this morning and just skimmed through it. And I would recommend reading it because it's just a person's story. It's written quite colorfully, some good verbs and good adjectives, and it's just a funny story. So if you find yourself with some free time today, click on it, read the story, get back to me, let me know what you think and maybe what words jumped out at you. What the key takeaways to the story, both the lessons learned and the language learned. Just another collocation with make, to make history. Yeah, we don't do history, we make it because we're actively involved. We are creating and causing it. We're bringing it into existence. And if you make history, for those of you watching out there, do you remember if you make history, which adjective do we use? Historic or historical? If you make history, it is historic. It is a historic moment. To file for bankruptcy. To declare bankruptcy. Hear ye, hear ye. Ladies and gentlemen, I do hereby declare and make public knowledge that I, in fact, am bankrupt. But then, of course, like anything else legally, you have to fill in some forms, and of course, lawyers. The only guarantees in life are death, taxes, and lawyers, right? But you gotta fill in some forms, talk to your lawyer, pay some money, which is hilarious because it costs a lot of money to go bankrupt, to declare bankruptcy. Comical in a way, ironic, sad. Fetish for maps. I love maps, I love geography, and to be in uncharted waters. It's like the old days where they had the maps of Europe and the west coast of Africa, and then off the side of the map, there was nothing there to the west except for like sea monsters and things. Those were uncharted waters. And so if you are in uncharted waters, you're in an unprecedented situation where no one has been there before. And so there's no lessons that you can learn from other people's experience to boldly go where no man has gone before. And just another common phrase, if something is here to stay, quite literally, it's not leaving. I mean, really, just trying to make progress as fast as possible. In this case, to adapt to the situation. This new post-COVID world. And they keep saying that, but it's not post-COVID because COVID's still all up in our business. Trepidation, such a good word. It's like worry and fear put together. And so, yeah, a sense of trepidation, to feel trepidation as the English Premier League gears up for return. And so they're kind of nervous, they're kind of scared because there won't be anyone to cheer for them in the sparsely populated. The gear is the equipment that you use to do something. And if you're gearing up, it's putting on your gear and getting ready for action. Gear up for a weekend camping. You could even argue I gear up for the morning broadcast with, often I've got different props and some coffee and some water just in case. My allergy pill, etc. I will seriously try to maintain my integrity for you and the integrity of this show. I will not deviate from what we're supposed to be doing. I won't go too far off the beaten path. I don't want to go too far into uncharted waters. Just kidding, that's where I thrive.
I thrive in uncharted waters.
Designated them as. They have been designated as. To attach or add a label to them. Well, my shirt actually is label-less, but to put a label on something, much like a folder or a jar of pickles, so that way you know what it is. You're saying, this is that. It's not polite to point fingers. We shouldn't put labels on people. You should never judge a book by its cover. Yeah? You need to read it first. Whatever. I digress. Oh, yay! Phrasal verb. He pulled out of, or he has pulled the U.S. out of the World Health Organization. Then you just take the two parts of the phrasal verb and put them together and you get a nice, delicious, compound phrasal verb noun. We've had setback, we've had drawback, breakdown, lockdown, and now a pullout. Menacing, threatening. There's dark storm clouds looming on the horizon, menacing us. He was always threatening to disrupt the continuity of the neighborhood. Dennis the Menace. If you're not even close to my age, you probably don't even know who or what that is. Well, there you go. There you have it. That was the news. Thanks for tuning in. That was breaking down the news for English Otherwise today, Monday, the 1st of June. Please do pass it along to a friend. Click the like, subscribe, follow, thumbs up, add some comments and doodads. Even if it isn't your thing, I'll bet you know somebody who would enjoy the broadcast. Help a brother out, help the world out, spread the love. And if I don't see you sooner, I'll see you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Much love and bye-bye.